Good morning. It is 9:40 a.m. on Sunday, March 25th, 2018. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. I did decide that I'm going to go ahead and do the rewatch for Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex today. So that's all that this video is going to be. I hopefully everything will be smooth technically, because yesterday's video had some sort of a glitch in it, and I'm still not sure what happened there, but hopefully it won't happen again. Anyway, this is episode 19, Embraced by a Disguised Net, Captivated. And this is the last of the standalone episodes this season. And I like this one a little bit better than some of the other, the last couple that have been a little bit fluffy. This one still ultimately is telling a pretty small, self-contained story here, where we begin. There's apparently a mafia that goes around kidnapping batches of young women that are then, I guess, they continue to use the terminology chopping, as though they're all just cars. And there's a little bit of weirdness with it in the sense that if the purpose of this whole conspiracy is just to essentially render these young women down into their organs and cybernetic devices for sale to others, why do they all have to be young women? Unless, of course, I don't know, just that's maybe part of the black market allure. Is like, oh, you get the liver of a pretty young girl. I don't know. That's kind of gross to think about. Anyway, so what happens is, by apparent coincidence, one of the young women who is kidnapped as part of this ploy is the daughter of the one of the former Japanese prime minister, who is notable among politicians as being one of the few who steadfastly in public will just deny that this mafia group even exists. Everyone else pretty much says it's fact, but he's the one that just says, nope, I don't know what you're talking about. That's crazy. And certainly, I don't know, that maybe has an evergreen political resonance, but to be sure, right now it sure does. But in this instance, though, part of what Section 9 is trying to figure out is, why would this mafia... So, like, the idea is the only reason for him to steadfastly deny this group's existence, even when it's otherwise obvious, is because he's connected to them, obviously, right? He is connected to them, and therefore he is trying to keep the whole nature of the situation confusing and not have it be... and so that's the idea, right? So, but the idea then that just raises the question for Section 9: why then would they kidnap this guy's daughter? It seems like playing with fire. And then there's the discussion of like, well, is it coincidence? What's going on? So in any event, at first they're trying to say, well, we don't want these people, like, if it's possible that they have her by accident, we don't want them to know. Because if they find out who they've got, it will, they would potentially do something desperate, like kill the hostages and so on. So in any event, we don't really get much of a sense of the actual character of the daughter. She's kind of presented as sort of shy and mousy, and really that's all. I'm not sure she even really talks the whole episode. I guess she does. She asks, like, when she's locked in the truck with the other women, she says, where are we? But the other girls are mad at her because it's like, hey, aren't you the daughter of the guy who says this doesn't happen? Anyway, we meet a couple of the people that involved with this ploy. A apparent young woman with an eye patch, who we later learn is actually an 80-year-old Russian spy in a cyborg body. She's the one though that kind of. So what she says to this other guy is that like we need to be taking better care of her, making sure that the air is fresher in here because it's like otherwise why are we even bothering to abduct healthy young bodies? She also says like healthy bodies born after the Japanese miracle. So the Japanese miracle, if I recall correctly, was a essentially a population thing where the like birth rates had been declining dramatically. And then the Japanese miracle was what got things going again, and so maybe that's part of what's going on is that some of the organs they want from these young women are the the reproductive ones. Anyway, we end up with Togosa and Bato more or less just accidentally stumbling upon the meeting of one of these places. I was actually a little bit unclear. I mean, maybe if I rewatched it, there's some throwaway line about what they were actually doing there. But as it plays in the scene, they essentially just turn a corner and, oh my God, there's these guys saying, whoa, arguing about prices. And then when they see Bato and Togusa, they start shooting. And so we get a little mini action sequence with Bato recognizing this woman and hunting down and capturing the other guy that was with her. Togusa gets to fight with a full cyborg body, and given that that's an uneven matchup, he does pretty well, but manages to try to get her in a hold and only ends up with her discarded arm. And I just realized I have a weird scratch thing. And Bato says, "No, get it, throw it away." And turns out it's actually an alarmingly large explosion that we could easily have imagined killing everybody in the building. And kind of plot armor. Bato and Togusa are okay, but the woman is able to escape with the truck that still has most of the girls inside, other than a couple that just fell out the back as she drove away in a panic. And so here's where we have like the Section 9 turn in terms of, this is kind of a miss for them, and, everyone kind of, chastises each other a little bit for the idea of like, you were right there, you did, and let her get away with the girls. And, so then the new strategy then is it had been under a media blackout, but let's now, make it a big deal, and put it out in the media everywhere and make this political firestorm. And the reason that's a difficult sell for this politician is because he's essentially made his political career on the basis of saying that this group doesn't exist. And so for him to now come out and say, not only do they exist, but they kidnapped my daughter, please bring them back, he's basically going to, like, his only real political capital is going to get burned there. But it's a question of, like, if that's the best way to get his daughter back, which is more important? And ultimately, he chooses that his daughter is more important. So even though this guy is kind of, corrupt and gross, he does make, a better choice there at the end. But now, because of the, the controversy and all of the spotlight shown on it, now this woman can't unload her, merchandise, so to speak. Figures out what's going on, tries to go to the embassy to request asylum, but is intercepted by the major and apprehended. And so basically what they ultimately determine is that this spy must have just pissed somebody off in the rivalries within the mafia, and so they set her up by putting this woman's name on the target list. It's not clear exactly what was supposed to have happened because it seems obvious that they wouldn't have intended they wouldn't have intended to lose their political ally through all this. But they also say a couple of times in the episode how, like, even though the group itself is pretty top notch, they have a lot of people in the group that are not necessarily so great. And so maybe there was just, that was some of the squabbling. They just didn't consider that outcome. They thought it was just going to be an internal secret mistake where, the politician would, of his own, go to his mafia allies and say, hey, what happened? And it was all going to be a way to set up that woman within the group. But now, because Section 9 persuaded him to come out, not only have they lost this political ally, but, a lot of their stuff has been exposed and this one spy has been captured. So, a win ultimately for Section 9. It's one of the less ambiguous ones, I think, because a lot of these episodes are designed to kind of leave you feeling a little bit unsure what was the right thing to do at the end of this situation. How are we supposed to feel about it? It's not necessarily obvious. But here, it's pretty clear that we're happy that these women got rescued. We're happy that this mafia got, messed up. We're happy that this corrupt politician is, has to essentially, give up politics in disgrace. So it's a win all the way around, pretty much. All right, so I think that'll do it for this time. Next time should be the first. It'll be episode 20, and so episodes 20 through 26 are all complex episodes. So we will be, following the standalone complex Laughing Man case throughout for the rest of the season, and that's some good stuff. So I will be back next week to talk about that, and in the meantime, I will talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes.